that long. But like yeah, I think time control is my mind. Is mine. So yeah.
I
But
think I would like something similar to time control, but not like kind of like Doctor Strange type, like where
mm,
you can like make things like die or make things come back to life or like disintegrate things or bring things like I would like it like that.
mm,
Have a little stone or something.
mm. Good talk.
I
Nobody.
don't know that I have an answer. Because, like, I feel like most of the best ones have downfalls besides, like, flying and, like, teleportation and stuff like that. But I don't know that I would necessarily pick those. I just don't know what I would pick.
Mm. Oh, you good? Anybody else? Mm.
I'm just trying to write down some short answers to these questions.
Yo, I swear, like if I get to talking too much, just one of y'all just please tell me shut up. Like
We're gonna be done at 7:35, so just like keep that in mind. Not 35, 7:30. We're trying to go until then. But if we don't need to, then we won't. But if we need to go until 7:30, then we can.
I don't know when to shut my mouth out sometimes.
My laptop's time is wrong. So this whole time you guys were talking, I was like, oh wait, it's 6:00, but it's not even 6:00. My laptop is just so ahead of time.
Oh, it's 3 minutes to 6:00.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh. Anybody nervous? Other than me?
I'm nervous. I already made this very clear.
I feel like once I get into public speaking, I don't mind it. It's just more of like, I can't really think about it too much.
Right. Yeah, it's similar to me. Like it's before and in the beginning, it's nerve-wracking, but once I actually start and like get into it, it's better.
For me, I think I get really intense anxiety before public speaking. So for me, I can like I have to do almost no preparation, like a lot before, and then like none, maybe like an hour before. Else I'm like, I start talking, I just crash and burn, and
Right.
the words don't come out.
That's me too, because usually like if I look and over prepare, I overthink, which usually causes my anxiety. So I kind of try to do the opposite this time, and I'm really calm right now because I looked at the questions, but I like kind of just wrote down words, not a full script. So
Right.
I'm like the opposite. Like I have to prepare, or else I'm gonna just be like a deer in head. Girl, I can't.
All right. Are we starting at 6:00 on the dot? Oh, did I interrupt any of you? Any of you about to speak?
I was planning on waiting until 6:00, but we can start right now if you guys want to. You guys can start. Yeah. So, my name's Treasure, and I'm the co-founder of Black Young and Educated. I'm also the president and the chief creative director. So we started B.Y.E in 2019, I would say. 2019 we started. And basically we started it because we were a part of the BHU at our school, but they weren't really, I went to like a predominantly white all-girls Catholic school, so they didn't really like care about us, they didn't really listen to us, and we didn't really have too many opportunities to do certain things. So my friend Nick and I, we kind of took this outside of school and just try to find a way to express ourselves with our own platform. So our whole mission is basically to give marginalized youth a platform to do whatever, which is like super broad, but we kind of like that because we can dabble in any avenue or anything. We can do art, we can give events for skaters, we can give events for literally anything, give opportunities for anything. So yeah, basically Mattress Factory reached out to Black, Young, and Educated and offered us like a opportunity to do whatever we wanted. And I kind of wanted to use this opportunity as like a chance for marginalized youth to do art, to use their art as their activism, and just to give everyone a chance to get paid for their art. So yeah, we can go ahead and everyone can introduce themselves. You can give your name, your age, background, where you're from, things like that.
So I guess I'll start just because I'm right next to Treasure. I'm Hunter Jones. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland. So it was really cool to just meet all you guys. She, her are my pronouns. I'm 21. And yeah, I am a visual artist, and my preferred mediums are oil paints, acrylic paints, watercolors, and just pen and pencil.
I can go next. My name is Bree Mims. I go by she, her, or they, them is also fine. I am 21 years old. I am also a senior at the University of Pittsburgh studying psychology and studio arts, and doing research in the Black female identity as a psychological and artistic concept, as well as research within harm reduction for substance use and abuse, 2 separate projects. And I am from Lansdale, Pennsylvania.
Okay. My name is Deandre Ratherford. I casually go by Dre. Y'all can call me Dre. Pronouns are he, him. I'm 21 years old. Background: I was born and raised in Bahamas, as I said like twice already. I've been drawing since 2nd grade. Moved to the States in 2016 for college at Pitt Bradford, satellite campus of Pitt, for exercise science. Graduated April of this year, and I've been living in Pittsburgh for about 3 months now. And yeah, you'll get to know more later, I guess, I think, so.
Someone want to introduce themselves
Okay.
next?
Hi, my name is Banji. I'm 18 years old, and I go by she or her. And I used to live in Nova, which is like Oakton, Fairfax area. And but I'm originally from Uganda, which is in East Africa. And I moved all around Africa, Namibia, Kenya, Tanzania, and I've only been in the United States for about 6 years now. So yeah, and my preferred mediums are either film for film photography or acrylic paints, oil paints, that much.
Amelia, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Amelia. I'm a senior in high school. I'm 17, and my preferred pronouns are she, her. So as for my background, I live in Pittsburgh all my life. My family's from India. And yeah, so my preferred mediums are generally digital art, but I also do some traditional, sketching.
And then Elena, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Elena. I'm 16. I'm a junior at Kappa, and I go by she, her. And my mediums are acrylic paint and colored pencils.
Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and move into the questions now. And the first question I had for you all was basically, what was your first interaction with art, or what got you started doing art?
I can go first. I think my earliest memory, and also some things that I still find to this day, the earliest things I was drawing were like fashion sketches. I think from a really young age, I always wanted to be like a fashion designer, until, I don't know, you grow up and things change. But that is something that I always, as to this day, I've got a lot of stuff going on. It's still something that kind of sticks with me even in my art practice.
That's so funny that you said that, because when I was younger, I used to like I wasn't really like an artist or anything like that, but I always draw like fashion sketches, and my cousin would also do it because of That's So Raven, basically. And I really thought I was like out here designing, so I can definitely relate to that.
My first couple of interactions with art, my dad used to be an artist, and that's how he made his way through med school. So he was the traditional like oil paints and acrylic type, but he also used to take so many pictures of us. And even though it was really annoying at the time, like when I got into my freshman year, I opted to take photography. And one of the basic things that you have to learn is like film photography, which I kind of hated at the time. But then as I began to like explore it more, I really liked it. So I feel like art has always been subconsciously in my life, but I wasn't fully conscious of it until I matured a little bit more.
Okay. What got me into art? It'd probably be anime and photography. That's my earliest memory, at least. In elementary school, I'd always be obsessed with drawing very accurately the faces of, like, Goku and Naruto and Ash Ketchum from Pokemon and all this stuff, basically to impress my friends, because that's really all I wanted to do at that age. And the same goes for photography. Like, I think at that age, any kid was impressed with a realistic drawing of a face for some reason. So yeah, anime and photography to impress my friends. Final answer.
I would say that's like really relatable to me. I definitely read a lot of manga. Like, I think I just went to the library one day, picked it up, and I was like, this is so beautiful. And I would spend time just like copying the pages of the book, trying to recreate the characters, and then eventually make my own characters. And yeah, just I read a lot of comic books and spent a lot of time just trying to emulate the artists that I love.
Yeah, so I think that I always like really like to draw. When I was like little, my mom would draw sketches of like me and my brother, and I really, I thought that was so cool, and I wanted to, draw like her. I feel like my style is actually pretty similar to hers now, but I feel like I never really thought of art as something that I could really do, and I just kind of sketched, as a hobby. But I think that, well, as I started to like mature more, I started to realize like how much art shapes, our culture and our lives. So, and like how much meaning it can hold. So that kind of changed my perception of art's meaning in my life.
How I got into art was my older sister and my dad. I really admired my sister, and she liked to draw, so I wanted to be like her. So I tried it too, and turned out I liked it. And then found out my dad drew in high school as well, and I saw all his old pictures, and I was like, that's cool. So I stuck to it, and I really liked it.
Okay. So the next question is basically, what is your creative process? Like, how do you get your thoughts going? If you're maybe drawing a blank at times, like, how do you stimulate yourself? And yeah.
Normally, I do mood boards. So I combine components from different artists and art pieces, whether that be imagery components or technical components. Put them all into one idea, and I really just build structure from there. But in this case, where, like, a theme is presented, I do this thing I call a mind map. I don't know if that's the official term, but yeah. So a mind map. What I do is, like, I put a word down, like BLM, for example. Then I write a word associated with that first word that comes to mind, and then I keep going until I have this big assembly of words that seemingly don't relate to each other, and I make it my job to make them relate, and I build structure from there. So yeah.
I can go next. For me, I think my creative process I still really don't quite know how to describe it, or like, I don't know, I think for listening to a lot of my professors, it's sort of like, although there's always research and it's sort of things are moving and there's pieces that you have to kind of get control of, they have sort of a streamlined process, somewhat, so to speak. And I feel like I'm slowly getting to where I'm like at the beginning of figuring that out. But what has been more important for my creative practice is quieting the voices of doubt. And like, because I have like notebooks and even on my phone and all these other places where I have like project ideas that I'll write down and never really come back to. So recently I decided to compile all of that stuff together, and I've sort of just been trying to like chip off things one at a time, and sort of also working on chipping away at that sort of like self-doubt of like, oh, is this worth making? Are people gonna like this? Is this worth looking at? Or, you know, taking hours to work, and, you know, none of that stuff really matters to an extent. And I think that is kind of what like summarizes my creative process right now.
I was kind of relating with what Dre said about his process in terms of the mind map, but specifically I've been trying to take a different approach towards making art. So recently my kind of creative process has been kind of like a stream of consciousness. So I'm constantly absorbing media, and I know that we all are, whether through their separate forms, social media, or the world around us. So I seek to, I guess, take what I've interacted with subconsciously and just find inspiration from that, which takes a lot of like reflection and internal work. But I think that my work is kind of like a stream of consciousness where like I don't really think about it to some extent. So I try to be as to myself as possible.
Would anybody else like to answer before we move on to the next question? No? Okay. So the next question is, how do you feel like art plays a role in our society?
I'm sorry, what?
How do you all feel like art plays a role in our society? Or what role does it play in our society?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I think that like with art, it's something that is really like, I think like Dawn said, we're subconsciously absorbing like a lot of it. So whether it's through TV shows that kind of shape how we think about the world, or it's through, you know, even art that's really highly commercialized can really influence how we think about, you know, like how our mind like kind of structures things, if that makes any sense. So I think that art really, since we're absorbing it from such a young age and it takes so many different forms, I think that it shapes, you know, something as base as our perceptions, like in our subconscious mind. So I think that what really changed the way that I look at art is trying to interact with it more intentionally and think about like what someone might be trying to convey, even if it seems like it really is just something commercial.
I think it's hard for me to say what the role of art is within society, but I think as a society, we place pretty much like every expectation on art. It's supposed to make us laugh, it's supposed to make us cry, and all of these things. Like, it's supposed to tell us the truth and also sometimes give us a break and be aesthetically pleasing. So I feel like there is a never ending list of the demands that society has on art. And I think, yeah, that's my answer.
You guys made some really good points on the receiving end. But on the creative side of it, it's I think it's such a good way of expression. I think expression is really necessary, if not essential, to the relief or even medication of mental health, because as human beings, we carry so much negativity in our daily lives that drag us down by our feet every day of our lives, and we have no way to cope with that or relieve ourselves of that stress. And art is in any way, shape, or form, or any creative field, it leads to liberation, just creation in general.
I agree. I'm just gonna say really quickly that I agree with Dre, because even though like I don't usually create art, but like I know that sometimes even just like for funsies I'll draw or color or something like that and I can feel better. And that's why I really wanted to do this art to activism, because I wanted people to put their activism into their art and have another way to express themselves during this climate, especially with the movement and everything going on, that I thought it would be like a really nice way to just, you know, like step back and say, even if I can't protest, I can use my art and actually put towards the movement, or like, and that's gonna, your art's gonna last forever. And people are going to be able to look back at that and kind of understand what was going on in this time. So, yeah.
Also,
yeah. You can
go. Thank you. I just wanted to add that I think art is a great way to like just create a snapshot of history too. I feel like in whatever form it is, it really just gives so many people an outlet to express like what's happening right now. So the art to activism is like really important, you know, regarding just the climate and the civil rights movement that we're seeing in 2020. But at the same time, you know, having a pandemic to the extent that we haven't seen within the last 100 years, like our art is telling a story and like making a memory. And yeah, I think that's really important.
I think as a person who doesn't talk a lot, that art can convey things that words can't, and expressions that are so hard to convey with words, and that it allows to show people what you might see or other people might see, and different perspectives through a different type of medium.
I agree 100%.
Dawn, would you still like to go?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I can go. I was going to say like basically what everybody said, but I think there's such a big importance on physicality and the space that art takes up. And I think that a lot of the things that are unsaid, like Alina was going to say, the unsaid things that words and other tangible things cannot convey, like translating emotions and like feelings and abstract concepts into like actual physicalities, can serve so much value into like providing evidence or like just a manifestation that something exists, you know, like something, because we interact with so many things like online and they're kind of intangible and you can't really fully grasp them, but when art like turns that and transforms it into something that physically takes up space in the world, I think it's really valuable.
So do you all feel like artwork is seen and appreciated in today's society by all groups of people?
I think it depends on what the message is. And I think also I sort of had a thought about the last question that I'll sort of tie in, but like for me, I think to be able to understand a lot of what's going on in our world racially and has been going on as I've, you know, spent the past 3 years on a historically white campus, there was a lot of things that were intangible to be able to understand, and I sort of used art as a way to pull those things out, to put words to them or aesthetics to them, and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of people also were able to understand the message better that way, sort of relating back to what Dawn was saying in the last response. But I don't think that people appreciate art all that often. I think specifically like two of the hardest pieces for me to make, or in a certain way, were the pieces that I submitted for the show, because I knew that they're, depending on who saw them, people could get very angry by them, even though they're really only like showing, it's just a sort of like a mirror being held up to what is happening within society to Black people. But no, I don't think that people appreciate art because people don't like when art pushes them too hard, or when it makes them think too hard or sort of feel too negatively. And it's sort of like art has to walk this fine line of being enjoyable and beautiful, but also sort of being honest, but sometimes honesty isn't beautiful.
answer.
Thank you.
And I would say that right now we are, especially on social media, seeing a appreciation for Black art, which is super wonderful. But at the same time, a lot of that, leaves Black artists or artists of color asking, how long am I going to have this attention on me? And when there are civil issues not being, put on the media and like on the news every day, are we still going to have an audience here? And I would say that it really just depends on what type of art you're making and how you market it yourself, because I feel like sometimes if you don't fit into a certain box, it's so easy to be overlooked and underappreciated.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to answer before
I think the point of like, how long is this light sort of going to be shown on me? I think that's really important and valid, because I feel very similarly. And when I saw this sort of opportunity, I was like, oh crap, like I need to jump on like any and all opportunities that are being put in front of me right now, because it's like, I don't know, when you have your 15 minutes of fame or whatever they call it, you've got to do what, whatever not whatever it takes, that's not what I meant, but more so like you have to sort of grind, which I know is a lot of people are talking about right now, to try and just like get as many eyes on you as possible, so that when this is no longer trendy, you still have some sort of like fan base or following that like is being engaged with your work, not just like, putting a like on Instagram or, yeah.
I definitely agree with you in general, because like even though people talk about like grind culture, it's not healthy, but like when you're a minority and you have all these odds against you and you've been oppressed and you're getting a chance to actually like have a platform and you like get to like stand on something like strong on your own, then you like feel like you have to take advantage of that, because you're not always presented with the opportunity. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And like,
go ahead.
I would just say like not even the concept of like followers or likes on social media, or even like how much money you're making, but literally just having the opportunity to be an artist and do what you love. I feel like so many people, like you said, don't have any type of platform. Like there have been a lot of grants going around for artists during coronavirus, which is like really amazing, but those grants are so important because some people, they can't even afford to put a roof over their head, let alone sit down and make art. It's not just about the followers, it's about being able to, have supplies and just do what you love.
Yeah, and I think something that also made me think about is like being one of not that many like Black studio art majors in my department, especially a lot of times being one of the only people of color or the only Black person in my classes. I feel even a responsibility there to sort of like, because there are not a lot of people of color or Black people, Black women that get to be in those spaces. I feel like I take that responsibility on myself to like not like educate, but sort of like in my one class we were talking about James Baldwin, and someone was saying how in one of his writings they didn't like that he was putting this pressure on artists to sort of be like the truth tellers for society and sort of like keep society's eyes open. But I sort of brought in the idea of like, well, James Baldwin was a gay Black man, like in a time that is similar to now but still very unfamiliar. And I think very much like a lot of us now, it's not really a choice. It's not a choice that you have. It feels like this obligation that's put on you. And yeah.
I'm just good at this. Just answering questions with these great answers. Like, hello. But okay. So you guys kind of already answered this question. Basically, like, how has art played a role in Black Lives Matter movement? And we already kind of covered that. So the next question is like, how has your art been influenced by the protests and the movement? Other than like, I know now that like you guys have to like wouldn't have to, but you guys should to make art for the art to activism contest? Like how has, other than that, how has the protest influenced your art?
I think for me, I started the work that was submitted. It started from a body of work that was started a year before this past January. So I mean, it's unfortunate that it is the case, but I mean, there are so many Black people that have died since then that I'm not even really sure what inspired that first like spark of just like anger to be able to create that type of work. But I think for so long I didn't really know what my artistic voice was, and I saw this need, especially in the environment that I was in, for there to be a voice for these types of things in the studio arts department. And I just sort of started creating. It felt really awkward at first because I felt like, you know, who am I to be like trying to speak for a community, for a group, for whatever. But at the same time, it's like, if no one does, who's going to? Because I didn't see it happening, at least regularly. So I again, it sort of came out of that same obligation that I was talking about from the last question of just like, it feels like you have to, it's not a choice.
With my work.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
All right. I forgot what I was gonna say, to be honest. Oh, okay. So yeah, I always knew that you know, it's been a given that Black people are a resilient people, but these recent events like honestly prove to me that we are unconquerable and unstoppable. It's given me a sense of security, a sense of confidence that I didn't have before, to be honest. And as that sense of confidence and, you know, just grind, it kind of trickled down into my art, and I feel much more comfortable as not only an artist but a Black man in America. So.
And I wanted to add something to what Bree had said earlier, basically because you said like you feel like obligated sometimes, and I think that's like kind of valid that you feel like that. Not kind of, but it is valid that you feel like that, because like your art and just like Black people in general, like we always have to do our part and make sure, even though we're not oppressing ourselves, but we have like this obligation to do our part and make sure we're educating people, and that like, especially like with the art and being able like to put that somewhere, and knowing that like, because we don't, like as Black people, we don't always have the leisure to just go and enjoy art, or maybe go to a gallery just to walk around for funsies. Like we're not always able to do that. So when we have Black artists that can put their art into these white spaces and educate people and make them feel uncomfortable in their own spaces, I think that's really important that you do that. So yeah.
Also, sorry, I know that Dawn and Dre still had something to say, but I want to respond to what you were saying. Is I definitely agree with everything of that, but I've noticed in my own experience that for me, it is not true that I don't oppress myself, and not obviously out of intention, but I mean, some of us have grown up our entire lives in the US, but I mean, even in other countries, there's different systems. They just affect different groups in a little bit of a different way, and sometimes more branch into colorism. But like, my work has also been a way for me to sort of start this process of purging myself of an idea of white supremacy, because it's very interesting how it's like you can point it out in other people, but it's really quite difficult to find where it lies within you, especially as a person of color, and as a Black woman. It's like they're coming from all directions at some points in my life every single day. So it's like to try and figure out all of it's almost like a needle in a haystack type thing. It's like when you find it, it's great, but looking for it is a mess.
Yeah, I was gonna say that specifically like how the Black Lives Matter movement has affected my journey with art and like my pieces that I submitted. I specifically think that arriving here 6 years ago, I kind of had a more objective interaction with the Black Lives Matter movement, not because I am of a Ugandan, but simply because I guess I kind of felt this distance because I hadn't witnessed it for as long as some people had, or I hadn't had the same roots or background with it as a lot of people in this country have, and like the amount of weight that that places upon different communities. So I didn't really feel this ownership over that experience, and I didn't really feel as valid in talking about it. But as this movement has progressed, as I've stayed here for longer and longer, I began to like be identified and be kind of pushed into that experience, into the harsher experiences of the Black Lives Matter movement. But I've also been fortunate enough to have some of the other experiences that have shaped my personality and identity. So in that way, I think that my work has, my work and my voice, I have found my voice through my work, but also I have gained, I guess, validity in my own eyes through this movement, and I guess through what has been occurring. So I think a lot of what has been influencing my art is just the amount of people that are putting out and being vulnerable enough to share their experiences, vulnerable to practice vulnerability every day and share their experience with the movement and share their perspective on what is going on. So.
So for me, the artist submitted was two of a series of portraits that I made, to honor the activists that are, kind of on the front lines. I think that, I think it was previously mentioned, the demands that our society places on artists. I think it's similar that the demands that, our society places on activists, right? So even peaceful, like the most peaceful protest is criticized. And then when there's protest that, makes a difference and starts to, come out of anger and actual justified feelings, it's like, oh, rioting and looting. I think that people have a really mischaracterized view of the people who are doing the work to actually better society. So I think that I wanted to give people, a platform, and also, of course, honor them through creating a portrait. But I think that, having some kind of quote that represents, what they believe in and what they're fighting for, and giving that to a larger audience who may not typically interact or get to see, or like all they're seeing is like just the like a wrong impression portrayed by the media. I think that that is what's important to me, and that's how the movement influenced my work.
Yeah, I also sort of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I had a similar experience with the Black Lives Matter movement. Just seeing this need for helping elevate voices to like help just share their message in a way that is easy to understand and easy to distribute. And just for me, like, especially the recent events that have been happening in like May and June, and even I guess back in February, I just am like, wow, there are so many groups that have such great words to say and information to share, and they don't have like an easy way to get it out. So I feel like art has been, I think we mentioned earlier, like a way that you can put a message into a way that's more understandable than just like words or text. And also that's accessible for a lot of people, which I think is really important. And I guess like personally though, I've always been striving to create a space for myself. I hope that doesn't sound selfish or anything, but growing up as a minority and almost like all aspects of your life, you just get tired of it and you want to see your face on the shows that you watch and the media that you consume and the books that you read. You want to see yourself and not in some weird caricature that somebody else created. You want to see who you are. And I think that's been like my drive for like being a part of the movement. It's like, giving myself a platform too.
Also, I had a response to Dawn. I just want to clarify, you were saying specifically like getting used to like the Black experience in the US, right? Yeah, I feel like I had somewhat of a similar experience growing up in a white neighborhood. And really the only contact that I had with Black culture was my own family, and then also my mom's salon, which was like maybe once a week. But I mean, when you're going to school every single day, hours a day, it you sort of become completely separated from the Black experience in a way outside of what your experience is the experience is. And I think for a long time I didn't understand how it sort of impacted me, even though like considering the space that I'm in, being one of the only Black people, if anything, it puts me more at risk because I stand out that much more, especially in my hometown. But it's just sort of like, it was a very difficult and painful experience to sort of come to understand what that experience is like, especially when you can't really escape it. I was thinking of this sort of idea yesterday, but it's like the only weapon that you have is your knowledge and learning and understanding in the ways that you and your community are oppressed. And that has also been a way that art has acted for me, is to understand where I am being oppressed, and also in places where I have privilege. Growing up in, a family that didn't necessarily have financial struggles, it was difficult to see that didn't protect us. And I talked a little bit about that in the art bio as well. But it's just like, you can sort of come to believe that there are certain protections in this world, but they're all sort of false and not really, because at the end of the day, what you look like, your skin is not printed with money, there's no way to get around that. And that was something I also learned through my art, and is why I think I feel obligated, is because I want to take that bit of privilege that I do have and find a way to make change with it.
Yeah, that was all great answers. So the next question is, you guys kind of already talked about this in the beginning, like how you heard about Black Young and Educated. It was a question like my team wanted to ask you all, since like we know everyone wasn't from Pittsburgh or like whatever, but you guys can just like reiterate it for the attendees.
Yeah, and I think we also have a question in the Q&A. I found it specifically off of the Instagram page that I think ended up being shared from one of my friends on their story.
Yeah, someone sent the art flyer on Instagram to me, and through that I saw the Black Young and Educated Instagram page and the Mattress Factory Instagram page. Followed both of you guys and worked tirelessly for this competition. But yeah, that's how I knew came to know you guys. I mean.
I honestly don't even know where I saw you guys at, and I kind of even, like, you guys took a long time to reply back to me, so I just assumed that it was like a no-go, that I just wasn't going to be a part of the panel. So then when I got the email that I was a part of it, I was like, oh, that's awesome, but where's this from again? And I went through my stuff. I couldn't find out like where I even saw the flyer at, but probably Instagram.
So again, my art teacher sent it to me and DM'd me, said she was thinking of me for it. So that's how I found it. And then I looked more into the website and learned a little bit more about the organization.
So I was gonna save the questions to the end, but I'll just do it right now since we're already doing questions. The one question that we do have is that I know that art done by Black/minority artists is inherently politicized. Plus, you feel the pressure for all of your art to push for change. But when is the last chance to just create art for yourself?
I feel like I have an answer to this, but it's kind of answers to the question. But the art that I make for myself, I feel like in a similar way of how it's like I'm making art to sort of push society. I feel like when I make art for myself, it's also in a very therapeutic way to push myself. So I'm still working on trying to find ways of creating that just feel like fun. For right now, the lowest stakes things that I can do that feels like fun is just knitting, or like sewing. I've been making a lot of masks.
So, what am I still muted?
No.
No? Okay. Um, the thing is, I I recently came to a point in my artistic career, I guess, that I'm really in a place where I don't care what people have to say. That's really the answer to the question. I don't care. My art is always for myself. Of course, I love when people can relate to it, or it pushes a narrative for them. But honestly, whatever any viewer receives from my expression is their business. If they want to express that with me, if they want to share that with me, all right, cool, let's talk about it. But um, in regards of it being politicized, I'm going to say what I want to say without sweating it for 1 second.
That was a really good answer.
Thank you.
I think that question was kind of hard too, because it was like, when do you just create art for yourself? But me pushing for change is for myself and for me to like create a world that accepts me and sees me as an equal. And that's really important for me. And that's like, I get pleasure from that. So I, I guess like outside of drawing and like visual art, because that's my go-to for self-expression, photography, I don't think I think I take pictures to capture Black joy and just like my experience, but I guess that one's a little less political. Like I have some pictures that probably don't even really have a message. They're just like a moment.
I can agree with that in a sense of doing it for yourself. I think I was kind of hinting at that when I was talking about like making work for myself, but I think also being in a space where my experience is not shared, being able to make it tangible through art sort of like gives me that validation of like, okay, this is real, this is happening, like this is, something serious and worth like taking time to put on paper or on canvas or whatever the case.
I kind of had the same experience. I'm really sorry if you hear any background noises. I'm on a college campus, so. But I originally wanted to say that my existence is inherently politicized. So I don't really separate my art from that. And by extension, my art is inherently politicized. So I've never really fully consciously thought of that. Maybe that's a new self-exploration topic for the week. But in that vein, I'm not always looking to make it political. Actually, like that's only been a recent thing for me, where I've been conscious of that politicization. But I've always sought to make art and through photography document the world around me, because I just find it cool that like the camera is kind of like an extension of your own perspective and like what you see. So I think that it's always been, whether I was conscious of it or not, like a way to document my own life around me. And that politicization was always in the back of my mind. I guess I haven't really been conscious of it until recently, when there is a certain pressure on social media that I wanted to discuss a little bit, where every move under the sun, there's kind of people waiting to see what Black individuals are going to do in reaction to what is going on. As I feel that pressure through social media, where why aren't you using your platform this way? Why aren't you using your platform that way? Why are your images not doing this? Why are your images not doing that? So in that vein, the pressure has been exacerbated recently, but in the past, I didn't feel it as much as I do now.
Okay, so another question that we got was, thinking about future work and future goals as artists, are there any materials that you're interested in exploring that you've not used yet?
I feel like for me, I love anything that lets me create a picture. But if I could do anything, it would be glass work. I just like don't even know where to go in my area though to get started with that. I don't know like how, and I heard that it's kind of expensive too. Uh, versus like I've been painting for so long, so I have all my paints, canvases, paintbrushes, and stuff already. And usually, if I buy stuff, it's just like more paint. I know where to go. I can get the hookup. But I would love to get into glasswork and start making more 3D art.
Yeah. I feel that same way about like woodworking and metalwork. That would definitely be like, if money were not an object or whatever the saying is, it would definitely be probably those two.
I think for me, like I would like to get more into doing like more physical painting. I think like Dawn talked about the importance of like bringing art into like an actual physical space that takes up space. I feel like digital art is a little more like ephemeral.
This isn't really a material, I guess, but I always wanted to explore the world of like clinical art therapy, because art is already therapy for most, if not all of us. But really, we're like you're literally like prescribed art therapy. I've always been really intrigued in that area. So yeah.
Okay, so another question we have is, who are the artists who have most influenced you?
I think the artist that inspired me to start doing the work that I'm doing now, and like what I was talking about, like the year before January, probably Nikia Brown, who I guess you could say Nikia's work is sculptural and also photography, but the end result is photographic work. And I also really like Kieza Harrell, who is Sugary Garbage on Instagram.
Mm. Mm.
I can answer this question. In the back, I don't know if you can see them, but a lot of the black and white photos are by my favorite photographer, Gordon Parks, who was prolific like during the 60s, and he was one of life's first black photographers at least. But he really inspires me. There's also this other photographer named Rosie Matheson, and she's on Instagram. Her portraits, like her film portraits, were the first to like make me see how people right now are still using film. So
I think also something that not a lot of people think about for art inspiration for artists is also music. Like for me, I really like No Name and Tierra Whack, and Megan Thee Stallion, and Chica, who is kind of a smaller rapper, but also not really. Chica has like big star energy. But yeah, so I think music is really huge, especially for like someone like a rapper like No Name, who I feel like talks a lot about the same stuff that I make my artwork about, and also Megan Thee Stallion. But I feel like people might find it harder to see where that connection is, I guess, but I don't know, I see it.
If anybody doesn't understand how Megan connects, okay, she makes you feel empowered, okay? Hello, and Tierra, yes. Anyways, I digress.
I like to be a witness of the Black woman greatness that's going on right now. Just wanted to say that. But officially, I have an answer. When she said music, my mind automatically went to Kendrick Lamar. To Pimp a Butterfly album alone was absolute poetry. My mind works in a way where I hear music and I automatically think of, you know, my own images, and I instinctively want to bring that to life. But artist-wise, fine arts-wise, Kehinde Wiley, he does art in a way that combines realism and, you know, some graphic design aspects, and makes it just one beautiful piece of work. And if anything I want, I my style, my ideal style would probably be closer to his, because I found out that anything that a camera can do, I do not want to draw, because if a camera can do it, why am I drawing it? Is that's basically how I think. So
I also really like how Kahinde, his style, his like scale is absolutely, I think that's such a big part of his work that I've begun to like internalize fully, because I think when art is like made to overwhelm, that's such an inspiring thing, because it's like completely facing you with that piece and like what that piece represents. So I really enjoy his scale too.
Yeah, and just like the idea of taking up space also. I think also I thought of a couple more artists, but like Carrie James Marshall, Kara Walker, Micheline Thomas, and Althea Murphy Price are also a lot of artists that I take inspiration from. And also, like, I think not enough credit goes to like all of the artists that I think a lot of us follow on Instagram, because it's so easy to just like forget, like, because I'm always like, oh, I love this artist, and I'll describe like what the art looks like for like 2-3 minutes. Person's probably not even listening anymore, but I like can't remember the name. So I feel like I wish there was a way to sort of like, I don't know, give more credit to just the content that we consume unconsciously.
Oh, I think also to add to the like discussion of art of like musical artists who've influenced us, I think Janelle Monae is one of my big musical like someone I really also like look up to. Her work is just incredible, and the way that she's able to weave so many different themes through a story over so many different albums is just insane. And also like all the work that she's done with, you know, creating actual movies to go along with all of her musical work is also, I don't know, it's just so like very inspiring. And I think another artist who got me to consider art more intentionally is Diana Faris. So she's a Black South African poet, and she wrote a poem called "I've Come to Take You Home," about one of the first like, I'm sorry to introduce like some, it's kind of an uncomfortable topic, but one of the like first female Black victims of like sexual trafficking. So it was Sarah Bartman. So and her art actually influenced the return of like her remains back to South Africa. So I think that, you know, she got me to consider that art can have such a like large impact. It can be so personal, but can have influence on like our actual, you know, laws in society at the same time. So she really got me to stop passively consuming art.
I think also this is more like art pieces, but film inspiration. I would also say recently I've taken a lot of inspiration from the movie Moonlight, which is on Netflix. And then also Paris is Burning, if you have not seen it. It's a serious but also very entertaining documentary about ballroom culture, I believe, in New York. During like, I want to say during the AIDS epidemic as well. But basically, I was talking about how before my work is the Black female identity, but I've sort of started to branch that into talking about gender and sexuality, which is why Megan Thee Stallion fits so perfectly. But also the Moonlight and Paris is Burning also add in sort of like this sort of queer Black inspiration, which can be really hard to find in such an official format as film, because film has a lot of like barriers to get into. So to even be able to see queer Blackness at that level is really inspiring.
Have you watched Pose?
Yes, I am currently in like the middle of this like latest season. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I feel like I just gotta like hit the pause button every once in a while. I'm like, okay, I'll return to this next week. Like that's enough for now.
Yeah, it's so good though. If anybody hasn't watched it, you should definitely watch it.
And I guess kind of like building off of film, but also going back to music videos have been a big part of inspiration for me. I've gotten a little more into animation, and then I feel like now a lot of artists are using just CGI and animation in their music videos. Like Rico Nasty is probably one of my favorite artists, and recently she dropped iPhone, and that was so cool. Like taking these 3D, yeah, making like little sim characters of her. Or if you guys listen to Earth Gang and JID, I can't remember. I think maybe it was Meditation, but they also released a music video that kind of was like this Afro-futuristic society where, you know, they were in space aircraft and just like flying around, and it was like beautiful, but also kind of similar to my own style. And I was like, wow, like I saw that and I was like, I could do that. Like that could be me, like creating some, like putting my own art into something layered, like a music video.
Yeah. I think I feel similarly, not in the sense of like necessarily wanting to make it, but like Tierra Whack's music videos, and also like her music videos, and also Tyler the Creator's music, because I feel like it's a very bold and brave move to be putting yourself in a place of where you could be feared, I guess, in a sense, because I think both Tierra Whack and Tyler the Creator sort of talk about more like dark expressions of emotions and stuff like that, and sometimes violence and whatever, and certain aspects can be problematic. But I think either way, I think I very much admire their braveness to be able to express that range of emotion within in a public eye, because I feel like it can so easily be taken in the wrong way. I mean, you just say something in a certain tone and it's like, oh, why are you so angry? Why are you yelling? So it's like to be making music about like maybe problematic behavior, but it feels freeing.
I definitely agree with like the music making you just feel free. Like you said, Meg Thee Stallion and like Rico Nasty, like how she just expresses herself in general just makes me feel like, yes, like I want to just scream with you, girl, and I do. If anybody else have anything else to add, because we have like another question. No? Okay. So another question we had was, do you use different mediums for expressing different explorations, or feel like all mediums serves your art practice similarly?
I think sometimes if I have like even a blurry idea of what the final product's going to look like, and not so to speak like seeing it as a canvas or whatever, but sort of like the essence of the aesthetic of whatever the piece is going to be, the medium sort of will fall into place over time. Like some things just feel more catered to painting or whatever, but I don't stick to just one thing, so it really feels like it depends on the topic, but I don't know what fits what specifically.
I guess for me, I'm kind of a seize the moment when it comes to feeling creative. So I'm not always in a creative mood, but I like to create art pretty regularly. So whenever I have just a desire to make something, I kind of just pick up whatever is closest to me. Like sometimes, I don't know if you guys ever, but sometimes I dream about stuff, like images, and I'm like, I want to like put it down somewhere. So usually I'll wake up and like jot something down on like Procreate on my phone real quick just to get the idea down. Or like if I'm out somewhere, I like to keep a journal with me. So like if I see something, the journal is going to be the first way I'm creating, or on my phone. Or like when I was in school, I wouldn't bring all my art stuff with me. So usually when I wanted to express myself, it was like whatever was even in the room, like whether it's paint or pencil or just the easiest thing.
I think, for me at least, you know, black and white really, really speaks to silence for me, just because, you know, when I think black and white, I think of like old school cartoons, like how they never had really like microphones and stuff. Whenever whenever you see speech, a literal frame would pop up with the caption and stuff. And I don't know, that's just how my mind works, I guess. But that's for black and white, and other things like, you know, like depth and subtlety and all of those stuff. Yeah, I definitely do those pieces in graphite or charcoal. But color, I color definitely represents life in my head. Life, vibrance, regardless of what color it is, of course. Like if it's anything but black and white, because that I already said that. But yeah, I definitely create some sort of poetic narrative from graphite representing, like, I don't know, like death, or color representing life, combining the two to put it into one piece or something like that. But yeah, I like my art to be a reflection of life, or how I see it, at least. So
Also, after, sorry, go ahead, Dawn. Go ahead.
In the same vein, I kind of use film. I use black and white film and then color film. I've recently been trying to get myself into color film, but mostly black and white film was helping me. I think, especially in when we're scrolling past on Instagram, I've recognized that like information gets portrayed in different ways. And I think visual information, when it's synthesized down to just blacks, whites, grays, shadows, highlights, I think can be so powerful. Not saying that color is not as powerful, but I mean, especially when looking at something with just reduced to those like basic art components like highlights, shadows, and how light is interacting with the image. I think it's just so interesting. So usually black and white has been my main means of interacting with the world, because though I do interact with the world in color, I synthesize that information and kind of recommunicate it and reshare it with the world through black and white. So I see black and white is really powerful. So that's one of my big medias.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I was going to add is that I do say I would take photography specifically when trying to depict black hair. That for the show that I had back in January, I had like a whole photo wall of like different like steps within the hair process of my nieces getting their hair done by my mom. And there's just something about black hair, especially like for like 4C and 4Textures, where it's like it's almost like the closer you get, the more you see like there's like it's like millions and millions and millions of these little tiny curls. And it's something that like in sort of figuring out my own hair care routine, I started to sort of see the beauty in that, and it inspired doing photographic work. And I just really enjoyed how those photos came out, and I feel like although one could draw that in a realistic sense, I feel like there's just something about being able to see like a real black person in front of you and their black hair, and just like having that on the gallery wall, sometimes even like above you. It's like it's putting black hair in this category that it's like elevating it to a way that it doesn't get to be elevated often.
Another question that we had, this one was specifically for Elena. They want you to talk about your special effects art.
Well, I'm really interested in special effects, specifically because I really like horror movies, horror and gore. So I thought it'd be cool to try and learn how to do special effects makeup. So far, I haven't done a whole lot with it, but I'm excited to do it because it's bringing to life things that wouldn't be natural in like everyday life.
SFX is really fun. For the record, I started doing it back in high school, and now it's really only like saved for Halloween time. But I think like I don't know, I definitely would encourage you to like pursue that. Even I mean, not right now, but I think the one thing that I wish I would have done back then is like got like a Halloween job or something like that. Back when I had gotten a bit of confidence in what I was doing, so that I could practice more often besides like just once a year.
Yeah, I bought makeup and I tried to do beauty makeup first because I did a camp about it and they said to try to get all things, all like a horse of all, jack of all trades. So I tried that, it didn't go well. I stabbed myself in the eye with the eyeliner pen I cried. It was black tears. It wasn't good, but but it's for like bloody gore stuff. I know how to do that. That's the only thing I know how to do.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so another question we had was, what are ways that we can support young teens slash youth in their art practices as they grow?
Yeah, so I think that, like, particularly for me, I think that I come from a really like privileged position, and I think that like art is such a stratified world, and it's really, really hard to become successful. So I think that especially like supporting young Black artists is really important. That's all I'll say to that.
I think if you have a way to like donate to your local underprivileged art programs, that's one thing. Or also even just picking like one young artist that you know who may not be able to afford the materials that they would like to work with. Even that I feel like would have been huge in learning some of the things that I feel like come most naturally to me. It's like when there's a price barrier, it takes you longer to get to those things, takes you longer to get the good materials and to get the practice and whatever. So it's like to have those things happen a little bit sooner is really beneficial if you have a relationship with someone like that.
Yeah, Bree said it pretty nicely. Just because art is expensive, yo. Like, especially if you're trying to make a career out of this stuff, like it is so expensive. And yeah, don't donations are definitely like a really big thing, and it doesn't have to be like, like $5,000, because no, like you will just. I was always a firm believer in doing a lot with a little bit. If you have $50, do something with 20 of it. So I mean, like, and then another thing is artists heavily rely on exposure. So yeah, that I'll use this opportunity to thank you guys for giving us this pedestal, to be honest, because y'all got what, like close to 10K followers on Instagram or something. Mattress Factory got a couple thousand. Like exposure is definitely a big thing for artists in regards to sales. So yeah, definitely any opportunity to give an artist exposure. Like if I have 1,000 followers on Instagram and he got 200, I'm gonna help him out. Feel me? And the ladder just goes up and up. But yeah.
Also, just being conscious of the art that you're consuming and where is it coming from and who's making it. I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, like I know this artist, but they don't ever actually like try to give them that exposure or even consume the art themselves, purchase it themselves. You know, uh, supporting local Black business has been a really big thing, and I feel like even that like trickles down to artists. Like you should be buying Black art.
You guys kind of just gave me an idea. So like after we're done, you guys should like definitely send me your Cash App so I can post on our Instagram people that like can donate to you all, because like duh, why not? So send me your Cash App so we can get donations for you all too. Okay. And I don't think we have any more questions. So I'm just gonna move on to I had one more question for you all. So what is some advice that you would give like younger artists younger than you, or people that want to pursue art and don't really know how to start? Like, what is your advice that you would give to them? And I kind of want everyone to answer this one.
I can go first. I feel like if there's something that I could tell my younger self as an artist, it would be to not care so much about what other people think about your art, especially if you're a new artist, because I think there's I forget who said it, and I feel like I'm going to kick myself later when I remember, but you have to put in 10,000 hours to be like an expert or professional at something. And that's like been sort of scientifically deducted from looking at like, famous athletes. I think even like Beethoven or all of the famous composers, like they were making music from a very young age, but not until they were that 10,000 hours sort of time frame in did they start making masterpieces. So like, I guess I sometimes get caught up in the idea that I could be a lot farther along if I would have not been in my way so much growing up. So I think that's definitely something I would give advice for younger artists.
Again, said very nicely. I was gonna say something very similar. Um, to any artist, as a matter of fact, express without the need for validation. Create what you want to create, and don't create what other people want you to create. Accept criticism, accept constructive and creative criticism, not from those who are completely ignorant about your creative field, but from mentors. For example, if you're working on some sort of if you're working on your masterpiece, don't accept help from, I don't know, like your little sister or something. Like, for me, like hear them out, see what they have to say. If they point out a mistake that you actually made, they'll fix that mistake because it's obvious. But in regards to like, yeah, I think you should do this, no. Don't listen to any of that unless it's someone you appreciate in your creative field or look up to in a sense.
Definitely. Don't take advice from anybody who you wouldn't want to be in their position. Not good.
Exactly. Oh, perfect.
I was also going to say not to get caught up in technicalities and not to get up in formal training. Caught up for like any artist, I think one of the things that really can invalidate our work, or like how we can invalidate our own work, is kind of just thinking that we need to go to school for photography or go to school for art, which is an option that is available, but I think that technical training can only get you so far, and like you could spend all that time truly trying to find your voice and explore your skills rather than constantly invalidating and diluting the value of your work because you haven't had formal training, because you haven't been able to afford art classes. So I think one of the most important things is to begin with finding your voice and not get caught up in the technical skills or how to use a pencil, or like, I think learning through YouTube is important, or like wanting to enhance your own skills, but don't let technicalities hold you back.
Yeah, I think for me, I really agree with that everyone said. I think that like also like looking at art really, really analytically, like it might feel uncomfortable if you really like a show or a piece of art to really pick it apart. But for me, that was really helpful. So not only looking at, you know, what specific aesthetic things you liked about that, because that helps develop your style, but then also looking at like thinking about what the artist was trying to convey. Like it might be, it's kind of tough to look at a piece like that because it feels like it may like, you know, it may seem like you're looking at the artist as like opportunistic, but you have so many different experiences and perspectives that are going into your art, and that's true for all of the art that you see. Like it always has a message, even if it doesn't seem like it does on the surface. So I think that, I don't know if I phrased that well, but I think that like even if it's uncomfortable, really, really picking it apart is helpful for finding your own style and voice.
I think that to stop comparing yourself to other people's art who are in different levels or who are older, who are more experienced than you, and trying to copy them or try to pick yourself apart because you're not as good, and then just giving up because you're not there yet is really important, because you have to keep trying because you're not going to be good at it at the beginning, and comparing is just going to destroy.
I would say that just a tip for other artists is to really engage the artistic community. I have found so much support through my artistic community, and not necessarily even just artists like me, but just being around other artistic people trying to make, trying to create a career has been really inspiring. Also, like, great for providing that exposure to you, great for sharing opportunities with you. I went to school, I was pre-med, so I didn't really have any exposure to the art world. And then I decided to become also an art scholar at my school, but basically I had to take additional art classes in order to get a certificate. And from there, like, I was introduced to so many more opportunities and met so many people. So I think community is really important.
Also make time for your art, like regular time, at least like once a week. Even if it's just like, I don't know, something like Doodle Bob, like something silly, like anything.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of sad too because a lot of artists go to school for not art things, and then because they're going to school for other things, they don't make that time. But like, even if you're not a minor in art or something, I think every year you should be trying to take classes or take an art class, or whether it's at your school or just offered by somewhere locally in your community. You should make that effort to put in time for your art.
Yeah, I think to add to kind of ongoing discussion, for me, I didn't really go to formal art classes, but I think that like also like there's so many like very, very thorough tutorials online that was helpful. I think that of course an art class is a really, really good way to get that like learning, especially if it works better for you. But if you don't really have the time or means to like do that, then there are so many resources online to do that. And I also think like I think that our society like really devalues art, especially as like a field to go into. And I think that considering like how much cultural impact it has is also important if you're into art, but you don't think you should go into it as a field, or you think it's impractical.
I also think if anyone's trying to be like a professional artist or whatever, that it's really important to get a grasp and understanding of how to write grant applications to get funding, even if it's just for small stuff. But like knowing how to talk about your artwork in a way that makes people want to give you money is a really valuable thing as an artist.
Okay, and since you said that, I was actually going to mention that, like, my organization, we're always open to give opportunities to anyone. So, like, if you have any ideas that you want to implement in some type of way and you need, like, I don't know, just someone to back it up, or just so like a platform or a source to help you, then we're definitely open to that. I know a lot of grants are going to be open in November, so if you have any ideas before then, just like reach out and we can help you write the grant and like basically like run it through our organization. So yeah. And moving on to basically the art that you did for the Art to Activism contest. You guys kind of already spoke about it, like I said, but just like maybe like something that inspired you, like maybe one specific thing, or just if you want to talk about that process, how long it took you, and yeah.
I can start. For my work, I think it ties into an answer that I already gave, but in a sense of like needing to put my reality as a Black woman on paper into art, because I wasn't seeing that shared experience in my surroundings. Nobody else was going through what I was going through. It wasn't weighing on other people like it was, having to go to class when that another Black person just died, or whatever the case may be. And it's like nobody really understands what that feels like in your classroom or whatever. It's like I had to get it out somewhere, because even talking about it, even without other people saying things, if they hadn't been in my experience, it was like invalidating to even share in the first place, because then I'm questioning myself because I know that they don't understand what I mean. But yeah, I think that was sort of the inspiration, especially for the pieces that were submitted.
For me, for I entitled one of my pieces "How You Were Raised," and for that piece, my inspiration was John Lewis's words, "Get in good trouble, get in good necessary trouble." And when I heard that, I automatically thought of how Black children are raised in Black households, saying that them being told, never to get in trouble. And I'm a bit of an idealist myself, so that piece really represents on how I want my future specifically to be. But just Black parenthood in Black households all over the country. That's the ideal future that I want. And it inspired me so much because I'm always thinking of, yo, how can I be a good father to my future kids? Feel me? And that was it just really spoke to me. In regards to how long it took, I actually finished that in a day. Um, like it was just like it was so stressful, so stressful to complete. But the other piece, resilience. Honestly, the entire Black experience inspired me to do that piece. From being hunted down through generations to being, you know, like to news reporters pretending to listen to us, to them being so invasive yet not really giving a damn about our experience at all. It's just really it's nothing specific about the Black experience that inspired me. It's the Black experience in general. That piece took 2 days to complete. And what was the other question? Like a part of that question?
It was just like, what materials did you use to make that?
Oh yeah, those are just graphite charcoal and a little bit of colored pencil.
So with my pieces specifically, I think what inspired me is, again, the Black experience, but I think the individuality that lies within the Black experience was such a strong influence for how I made my art, because I titled my two pieces after my two younger brothers, Davin and Davis. And so though we are family and though we live in the same system and we interact with each other daily, there is such an invariably different experience that they have of the world as Black males, as 16-year-old Black male, as a 12-year-old Black male, and I'm an 18-year-old Black female. So I think I just was inspired genuinely by the value in all of our perspectives, in all of our experiences, and in all of our individual, and some of these experiences, like no one else, actually all of them, no one else is really going to experience in the same way, at the same moment, in the same time. But I think there is just so much value in that, where we all have like kind of a same vein, like familiar with the same experience, but we all have a contribution into how we experience it and how we viewed it. So I think that was the main inspiration for my two pieces. And in terms of materials, it was really just film and my camera. I don't know if you can see it, but it's back there. It's that big Black dot. I had those photos already. I had taken them before I left home because right now I'm at college. So those took me with scanning, developing the film in my house, and also taking the pictures. That took me about like a week, but
Hunter, would you like to go?
Yeah, so my pieces are pretty different from each other. One of them is called Intersectional Environmentalism, and that one was a digital piece. I did it on Procreate, and I think I actually just did that whole thing in the app. I didn't even sketch it. I do everything on my phone if it's digital, so yeah, I just use this. And I think that probably only took me a day or so, maybe 2-3 days, just to like touch it up and add whatever I thought was needed. And then the other one was actually a piece of wood. I want to say maybe 8 inches by 11 inches, like the size of a piece of paper, but maybe like an inch thick. And I used oil pastels to sketch everything out and add my like base, and then I painted oil paints on top of it. And that probably took a couple of days to maybe a week or so. I can't even remember. But both of them kind of are similar concepts. You've got like different types of Black women in these peaceful environments. And I just, through my art, I really like to bring importance to not only Black people, but Black women, but then on top of that, the environment. I feel like I'm not to put one issue like in front of the other, but I think people often forget that they happen simultaneously and different things intersect in different ways, and environment and racism kind of like are an interesting intersection because predominantly Black and Brown communities are impacted disproportionately by environmental degradation. We are being poisoned, our land is being destroyed, it's being taken from us. And I think that sometimes that's forgotten, and just like really important to bring attention to that. And just, I went to school, I studied geography, so my inspiration has just been bringing awareness to the environmental movement, but also trying to bring Black people to the forefront of that movement so that we aren't forgotten.
I just wanted to add really quickly, like Hunter, that was like super important because I was just talking to like my co-founder about that like a lot of people who are basically like focused on like the environment, things like that, it's very whitewashed, and like a lot of the times it's forgotten that like our air is really polluted, and especially like in Pittsburgh, like in certain neighborhoods, like I've just like recently I went to one of the neighborhoods that have really bad air quality, and I literally could not breathe. And I was joking with my friend, and I was like, bro, I can't breathe. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. Like, I'm out of shape or something. And then we had talked to a friend who's like an environmentalist, and she was explaining to us that the air quality is just really bad over there. And I was like, wow, like, what the heck? Like, that's so real. So, yeah.
And it's really interesting because even like looking into the history of housing, which you wouldn't think even involves the environment, like Black and Brown people have been pushed into less desirable locations, because that has been a form of oppression, and their neighborhoods are created in ways that prevent them from getting job opportunities, from breathing clean air. I think Black children are like 4 times more likely to suffer from asthma, and then they grow into adults that have breathing problems, and we have pandemics that impact your lungs, such as COVID-19, and it's a cycle. And those things connect. They're not isolated.
Thanks for bringing that up, because that was very important, and we've like been talking about that a lot with my organization. So yeah.
Yeah, so I guess for me, what the artist admitted was it's not, I guess it's trying to put the spotlight on other people, the people who are kind of, on the front lines and, risking their lives to fight for something, like for their own justice and for something that they really, should not have to fight for. But it's like, I think that I wanted to find a way to like honor people while also driving some concrete support towards them, and being able to share their unique perspective, but also in a way that will draw attention from people who may not be in those like activist circles, right? So I basically like just get pictures from people for a reference, and then get a quote from them that they'd like to share, and then about themselves and about their work. And then I also get their donation link, so whether that's like their personal Cash App or Venmo, or whether it's an organization that they would recommend that people support, and then I just draw a portrait and then put it all together. I think that like on Instagram, what I was seeing is a lot of like very like graphic designy, I guess, infographics and stuff. So I intentionally took that kind of like format in creating in formatting the quotes and the donation links for people, so that it would be more something kind of palatable in the similar design of a lot of the infographics. And I think that, so for the portraits themselves, I spent several days like working on them, like a couple hours each day, because I need to do some touch-ups. Sometimes I have to scrap my work entirely because it's just not like representative of the person. But sometimes it flows really well, so it just depends. But yeah, so I think that that's kind of like my creative process with this. I'm sorry, that was completely different than the previous discussion of, intersectional environmentalism and health that was going on.
No, that's fine. You're just answering the question. Elena, you can go if you would like to.
Well, I wanted to do something that represented both male and female, black females and black males getting shot because, well, mainly because I feel like most people know that black men are getting shot, but for a long time, I feel like most people didn't know that black women were also getting shot. And so I felt like that would be important, which is why I chose to draw two people that represent both sides of the coin, I guess. And I felt like it's important to use the icon of fist to show power, but also to show that it's being damaged and people are trying to kick it and like destroy it with cuts on the wrist and just try and destroy the hope and trying to destroy the movement so that everything stays the same.
I also realized I didn't answer part of the question. The materials that I used were, the painting is canvas, which I tore and then re-sewed to give like a flag effect. There's oil paint and paint markers, collaged images, embroidery of the actual loose threads from the canvas itself.
Everything.
And then the other one is an ink drawing that has like color pencil in there just for some pop of detail, and then fine line markers for the text and arrows. Oh, and it took me painting probably something like 3 weeks and the drawing probably something like 2. They happened during the semester, that's why.
Yeah, oh my gosh, the amount of like creativity and hard work and effort that was put into like these pieces is incredible.
I was just gonna say, you all did so good. Like,
I swear.
I was looking at them, me and like my team, and we were just like, what the heck? Like, this is more than we even expected from you all. Like, I wanted to cry. Like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Like, I didn't even know. I was like, I don't know where this is gonna go. Like, what's gonna happen? If people are gonna even submit their art, and you guys did, and you guys came through and did that. I was like, yes. Like, hello. Why are you guys trying to silence these people of color, these artists of color? And it's just like, we're out here doing the thing. Like, y'all did that. Like, hello, clap for yourself right now, please.
Because I submitted my stuff at like 11:59 on Wednesday, bro. I swear. Like, yo, I was working all day on those.
You guys did really good. And I just wanted you guys, if you had any questions for each other, to ask each other any questions. And then after that, I'll announce who's gonna win. And I don't even want to do that because I wish all of you guys could win.
Rocking.
Oh, sorry. But I did want to ask you guys, like, what's your favorite part of the creative process? TM, I guess. So whether that's like, you know, coming up with ideas or just, is there anything about it that you really enjoy or that's relaxing or like even healing?
I think my favorite part is when you surprise yourself about like, oh shoot, like I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know, like it usually always happens in the times, like I think my one professor who has witnessed this many times, Barbara Weisberger, I'd be like, Barbara, I don't think I can do that. Like my artistic skills are just not there. And then Barbara's like, let's see what you can do. And then I would do the project and I'd be like, I surprised both of us. I'm like, wait a minute, like I swear to God, I didn't know I could do this. But I think that also just speaks to like being able to have, you know, other influences and whether professors or other artists just being able to push you, like that's a really great part of creating.
For me, it's like not how I spoke earlier of you know, putting seemingly unrelated terms or ideas together into one idea. When I come to realization of that one idea, it is just I feel it's indescribable. Like it honestly feels like some sort of euphoria. Like this is gonna be dope. This is gonna be so amazing. I don't even want to sell this. I want to keep it, and I haven't even made it yet. Like, I just want to keep it in my head and think about it. Like, that's really my favorite. Like, when I really come to the decision, like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. That's the best.
I think one of the most satisfying parts for me, or the parts I enjoy the most, is when, like, with photography, I know that images are exactly like how you took them, but at times when you're taking a portrait of someone, sometimes it doesn't feel like that person. It feels just like a photo of them, if that makes sense. So when I feel that that is that person in that image, that's so satisfying that I managed to capture that. And in the same vein, like when I'm painting and I have like an emotion that I want to express or to like bring into physicality, I guess, it's so satisfying to see it and know that that is exactly what I wanted to communicate. Because oftentimes, like, there's some times in the creative process that can be difficult where like I'm trying so hard to like say this one thing, but I'm not saying it. But when I am and when I do, it's really, really satisfying.
Oh, I just wanted to say, like, for me, like, I basically take, like, the people who I feature send me photos, right? So I'll sketch, digitally paint over that, and like try to replicate them from life. But even if I, like trace completely, it'll look completely different than the person sometimes. And if it doesn't capture their spirit, then sometimes I have to like scrap it. So I totally like understand. That's a really interesting perspective from a like, photography standpoint.
I also want to remind all of our viewers that all of the panelists and panelist artists, their work will be for sale, and we're gonna have a physical show from September 11th to the 20th of September at the Mattress Factory. So make sure you guys see it. Make sure you buy their art. Don't come here for nothing. And yeah, no more questions for each other. I wish I would keep on talking forever because I don't want to pick anybody. This was really, 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 really hard. And I was texting my team this whole time and I was like, guys, like, I don't even know who to pick. Like, who are we picking? And they're like telling me all these things and I'm like, I just don't know. And guys, I don't want to pick anyone. Like, you guys did so good. Like,
The decision wasn't made beforehand?
No, it was very hard to make beforehand because you guys all did so good. Like, there was we didn't pick anyone because we wanted to just like kind of go with what was going on and hear you guys speak about your art. And yeah, so I was supposed to pick it right now. And I just still don't know who to pick, but I'm going to pick what my heart is telling me, who my heart is telling me to pick. I really hope people buy you guys' art because you guys all did so good. And I'm definitely going to post the Cash App so there's donations and everything. I feel like I have to make it up to everybody in some way. Okay, guys. Give me a drum roll. A little. Okay. So, Brianna, you did really well. And I could tell through your art you worked really hard. And yeah, so we need you to email Maddie after this.
Thank you.
And send her your name and your address.
What? Crazy. Way to go.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
Congratulations, sis.
You all worked so hard. I'm like sweating right now. I'm like, so stressed out. But yeah, make sure you guys send me your Cash App so I can post on our Instagram and have people donate to you all. And I know people are gonna buy your artwork, okay? So don't feel any way about it. Like I said, I keep on saying I wish I could have picked everyone. Like honestly, you guys all did so good. And yeah, if you guys have any more questions or last things that you want to say before we're done.
I just wanted to also say thank you to all of the panelists. This was really nice to be able to talk to fellow artists about something that we all have common ground on. And I don't know, it's just nice to be able to have a conversation, especially right now.
Yeah. Yeah, just not even talking to artists specifically, but people in general. I don't see nobody no more. So yeah, this is really cool. And again, I said it before. Thank you guys for the opportunity. The entire board of Black Young and Educated, the entire board of Mattress Factory. Thank you both. Thank you.
And thank you to all the viewers watching at home.
Thank you. It was really nice talking to you guys too. That's all I want to say. Like, talking to people outside of this campus was a blessing. Thank you.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you all, and thank you again for submitting your art. We originally wanted to do like an actual like 3-day gallery and like all of this stuff before the pandemic came, and I'm definitely still gonna do that whenever we're able to like gather again in large numbers. We want to do like a show at the end of the gallery, like all of these great things. So now that I know you guys and I have your contact information, I'll definitely reach out to you all so we can do something for that. And that'll be like way more open-ended, and you could do literally whatever you want, submit what you want, all of that stuff. So yeah, and like I said, if you have any ideas, please reach out to Black Young and Educated, because we want to help in any way that we can. So yeah, thank you all again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Right.
Y'all enjoy all night.